Hello, and thanks for joining me. This week I ran across this Rumi quote that I really thought was noteworthy. I love Rumi. And this one struck me because it said, Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I'm changing myself. Now, that's, I find, it's a timeless quote, and it's also it's something that I find interesting because Rumi, of course, made this statement a couple thousand years ago, I think, or no, I think he lived in maybe 300 or 400 AD. I'm probably way off base, but it was a while back. It was a long time ago, and clearly this is still going on today. We have a lot of people who want to change the world. They see evils in the world, they see problems in the world, they see things they don't agree with. And so they want to go about changing it. Now, of course, when it comes to things like injustice, then well, it makes sense we would want to join in and try to make changes in that area. And if people are asking for justice, or they're asking for freedom, or they're asking for what have you, then it makes sense to want to jump in and help them and aid them in that. But part of what I think Rumi is pointing to, of course, I have no idea really, but my guess is it's more what he's talking about is that ego-based belief that I need to change the world to be better according to what I think would be better. And this, of course, is where colonialism comes from, this idea that there's a superior way of seeing things or doing things, and not having respect for other people's beliefs or way of doing things or ways of living. And so there's an ego in that. There's a hubris as well, because it's an imposing of one's beliefs on others. And again, it's a belief that my way is better than your way, or that I need to teach you. It's a superiority stance. And so what I think Rumi points to is that, who are we to say, or who are we to know what other people need in their lives? If they're saying what they need, then great, let's help them get that. But if we are trying to impose our beliefs or our way of life onto others, and they're not wanting it, especially if they're fighting us on it, maybe, just maybe, they actually know something that we don't. So that's part of what I think Rumi is pointing to. And the other part, I think, which is, it goes along the same lines, but it's really about humility. It's about being a humble servant in the world. It's about not, well, as Kennedy would say, right, not asking what your country can do for you, but asking what you can do for your country. It would be the same of the world, asking how you can be of service and really listening to the answer, and not just charging in with your ideas and expect everybody to listen and run with it. And this is oftentimes a really hard thing for people to do. We have very fixed ideas about how we think the world should be. We have fixed ideas about how we think our life should be going. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of times our ideas and our fixed beliefs are really limited. They create blind spots, in fact, to what may be greater wisdom that we're missing because we're so attached to what we think is the right way. Now, you can witness this in your own life in different ways. So a lot of times, if you're like anyone on planet Earth. There are things you want in life, and you set about going after those things, right? Setting goals and trying to create a great life for yourself. And so, but what happens if maybe one of those goals doesn't come to fruition? What if you had said, well, I am going to make $1 million by the time I'm 40? And that doesn't happen because, life happens, and, you get laid off from one job, and then you have a hard time kind of finding the next job. And then that really is a bad fit. And so you decide to make a career change. And then pretty soon you're 40 and you're not a millionaire. So what does that mean? Does that mean that you failed? I mean, does that mean that you're a failure? Well, oftentimes people will start attaching meaning to these kinds of things. It's like, well, I failed, or like, well, there's no point in trying because, well, I didn't make my goals. So, well, yeah, what's the point? What's the point of trying? I just should give up and adopt a defeatist attitude. And it's really easy to go down that road for sure. But what if there was a reason that you weren't supposed to be a millionaire by 40? I'm not talking about, fate or destiny or anything like that. I'm just saying that maybe there was something you needed to learn. Maybe there was something you needed to learn about struggling a little bit. Maybe it was so that when you did get your $1 million at 50, it was that much more sweet. Or maybe if you did not get that $1 million, it was because you really needed to learn that money wasn't going to buy you happiness, and that in fact you were going to find many other ways to be fulfilled, and that maybe you even realized that money wasn't even really important to you after all, and it was actually much more important to have a family, or to follow your dream of traveling around the world during that time you were laid off of work. So all of that is to say is that we don't really know why we're here, and we don't really know what the point of it all is, and we certainly can't pretend that we know how things should go in life and according to what timeline certain boxes should be checked off. And so even aside from being humble in the face of life and the forces of life that we're up against, should we try to impose our will on life? Sometimes, I mean, usually people are humbled. If they don't reach humility on their own, they are humbled at some point by life. But there's something else that I'm really pointing to, which is just that not only do we not know why we're here, what our purpose is, and whether we're carrying that out properly. And in saying this, I mean that you could have some great purpose that you really hadn't even thought of. Perhaps one of the purposes of your life was to push someone out of the way of an oncoming car, and if you hadn't been standing at that point, at that moment, it wouldn't have happened. That's one thing. And the other thing is that, we think we know so much, and we know so little, really. Like there's this wisdom that is actually coming through us when we allow it to come through us. And we allow it to come through us by getting out of our own way. Getting out of our own way means getting out of what we think we know, how we think things are supposed to go. When we get so attached to those fixed ideas, those fixed beliefs, the fixed plan, we get so attached to those things, we actually miss opportunities, or we might just be missing what's unfolding miraculously through us or for us. And so this is just an invitation to remember, like, we really don't know much. It's okay. I mean, we have minds that are capable of processing a lot of knowledge and analyzing, and these are great things. But those processes can get in the way of greater wisdom or greater insights, greater opportunities. And so when we allow ourselves to be led more intuitively, that's where our wisdom comes through us, it comes through our consciousness. Sometimes it just moves through our body, but sometimes it comes through our consciousness, and usually it does that through our intuition. And when we're open to that more, and we're listening to the chatter up here less about how things are supposed to go, more often than not, or I would say 99% of the time, we're going to do better in life. We're going to be open to those opportunities so we can actually see them through. And we're not going to be so stressed out because we're not going to be trying to force things to happen or force people like to bend them to our will. We are going to be working with nature as opposed to against it. So just something to keep in mind as you're moving through your week today, and see where you might be trying to force things, and see where you might kind of be attached to something that may not be serving you. Maybe maybe it's actually getting in your way. Just notice that and see if there might be a way to step back and see if there's a different way to look at the situation, or a different direction you might want to take. So, well, those are my thoughts for the week. And I really hope that you have a wonderful one. And I look forward to seeing you next week.